Hey guys, welcome back to Wixfix. I hope you're having a fantastic day. In today's video, we're going to be designing another agency website. Last time we designed an agency website that was very modern, minimal, and clean with just one accent color. But today's video, we're going to be designing another agency website that is a little bit more creative, colorful, and artsy. And just like usual, I will be building out additional pages, making sure it's responsive on desktop, tablet, and mobile, and it will be available on my website. So feel free to click the link in the description and grab a copy of it for yourself or even a client site today. Let's go ahead and get started. So with these web design videos, I typically already have the header and the footer complete. So that way we can just focus on the fun part and design the actual page. Now I have designed plenty of headers and footers in the past, so feel free to check out other web design videos to see how I do it. But let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to do is create a nice little hero section. In order to do that, I'm actually going to bump up the size of this section right here to, let's say, 800. Hero sections typically need to be quite large because this is going to be your first impression. You need your users to understand who you are, what you're about, and what you offer them. This is pretty important. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is go ahead and just apply a 2x1 grid, just like that. I'm going to go into the layout of the grid, and I'm going to give this right one a size of 0.8 FR. So that's going to basically just bump over this grid line just a little bit. In this right section, I'm just going to go ahead and add an image, and we're going to stretch it to the full width, just like that. And then we're going to go ahead and change the image. I think something like this looks really nice. Now on this left side, we need to add a little bit of information. So let's go ahead and start by bringing out a title. We'll bring out a paragraph. We'll bring out a button. Let's go ahead and bring out another paragraph to put on top. And we're also going to bring out a small little design element that I uploaded to the website. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste a bunch of text that I'm going to be using for this section. And now we can go ahead and start designing. So what I want to do is just select this our goal. What we're going to do is go ahead and give it a lighter color, something more like this. And what we want to do is actually have this little design element right about here. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is go ahead and add a container. We're going to make this container quite small because it doesn't need to be that large. We're going to apply a 2x1 grid to it. And while we're at it, let's also go ahead and just remove the background color completely. Just like that. Great. Now what I want to do is go ahead and pull this our goal text right into the left column. And then I'm going to pull this little design element into the right. Now what I want to do is just go ahead and send this little design element to the left of the column. And we're also going to vertically center it. Then what I want to do is just go ahead and set this text temporarily to fix so we know that it's 113 pixels. And what I want to do is just go ahead and set the minimum width to 113 pixels. Now with that minimum width set for the text element, we're going to go ahead and grab this container, change the grid layout. And for this left column, instead of it being 1 FR, we're going to set it to max content. Now, if we look at what that did, that basically shortened this column to the width of this text element, which is exactly what we want. And we're just going to set it right here for now. Now for this Better Products main headline, it needs to be a lot bigger. So let's go ahead and start with 60 and see how that looks. I think that is a pretty good size for what I'm going for here. And we'll just go ahead and put that right underneath the our goal. For this text right here, we're just going to bring it down a little bit. And we're also going to go ahead and change the text color to something a little bit lighter. The reason we're doing that is because we want this to stand out even more. We want to draw your users' attention to this text. Then they can go over here, read this text, then this, and then they can look at the call to action, which is the get in touch button. For this button, we're going to go ahead and make sure that the background color is this nice purple. And for hover, maybe something like that. So now let's go ahead and grab all 4 of these items. and we're going to press stack. And basically what that did was create a group with all of these elements. And now when we, resize everything, they're all going to be in a group no matter what. But I'm going to go ahead and grab this stack. We're going to go ahead and make sure it is centered inside of this box or this column over here to the left. We're also going to go ahead and add, let's say like 200 pixels of margin to the top and the bottom. And we're going to grab the section and remove the minimum height. Now, nothing looks like it happened, but that 200 margin that we added to the top of this stack and to the bottom is controlling the height of this entire section. This also helps things be responsive when you're working on the tablet and the mobile breakpoint, which if you want to be even more proficient with it, with the 200 pixel margin set, we can actually change it by clicking on the pixels to percentages or viewport height and width. Typically, I will just do percentages because that is a little bit easier to manage. And the last thing I want to do on this section is just go ahead and select this image. We're going to press this settings icon and we're going to add a parallax scroll behavior to it. So now we have something like this. All right, now we can go ahead and move on to our next section. So in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and add a new section. For this section, we're actually going to make it dark. So we're going to choose something like this color right here. And of course, just like always, we're going to make this kind of large for now. This is going to change, but it's giving us some room to work with. The first thing I want to do is just grab out a container and we're going to go ahead and set this to about 85%. And we're just going to make sure it's centered and sent to the top. And we're also going to remove the background color and we're just going to set the height to 800 pixels. Now, what I want to do is apply a 2x1 grid to it. And we're going to go into the grid and we're just going to set this left column to maybe 0.4, something like that. So basically what this section is going to be is it's going to be a list of services. So we want to have some text over here, and then I want to have 4 boxes over here. That's going to basically show off these services. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and pull out some text. I'm going to pull out a button. I'm going to pull out a paragraph. And then I'm going to pull out another design element like we had in the last section. So basically what we're going to do is basically follow the same step for this design, but just right here and a little bit smaller. Let's go ahead and get started. Great, now we have this left section complete. Now let's go ahead and start working on the grid section right here. So what we're going to go ahead and do is just pull out this repeater. We're going to make sure that has 4 items inside of it. And we're going to set it to grid cells. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do for now is just stretch it to the full width of the section. I'm going to come over to layouts. We're going to set a 30 pixel gap in between each item. And we're going to set a minimum width of 25 VW, just like that. And that's basically going to give us 4 different sections right here. Now I'm going to go ahead and go into the design. I'm going to change the background color to something a little bit darker like this. We're going to go into the corners and give it like an 8 pixel radius, something like that. And let's click off of it just to check it out. I think that looks pretty good. The next thing I want to do is just go ahead and add an icon. So I'm going to go ahead and just add this one to the repeater real quick. Now you can use whatever icons you want to use, but I think this one looks really nice. Then we're going to add some text. So I'm just going to add a little title right here. And we're also going to add a paragraph. Of course, we want to make this text white. And we're going to go ahead and copy and paste in our text. Okay, and then the next thing I want to do is just go ahead and make sure we grab the repeater. And we're going to set a minimum height of, let's say, 200 pixels. The next thing I want to do is grab this container. Let's go ahead and add 150 pixels of margin to the top and the bottom. But then we're also going to go ahead and remove the height of it completely. Now, because this is a grid, we actually need to come over into the grid settings, and we actually need to set this minimum height to minimum content. Now, before we actually edit the grid, what we want to do is go ahead and grab these 3 items, and we're going to press stack. Now, inside the inspector panel, what we want to do is we want to give 30 pixel margins on all sides of this stack. And now let's go ahead and grab this container. And we're going to go ahead and remove the minimum height. So we're going to set it to minimum content, just like that. So now we have a section that looks like this. However, we might want to add a little bit of flair to it. So in order to do that, what we want to do is just go ahead and grab the item. We're going to come over to the inspector panel and add an interaction to it. Now, what we want to do is have a custom interaction. So what we want to do is we want this vector art to disappear. So we want to lower the opacity to 0. Then what we want to do is actually just grab this stack. We're going to translate it -100 pixels. Now, basically what that's going to do is something like this. Now, as you can see, the icon actually is outside the box, which we don't want. So we're going to come back over to the inspector panel. We're going to go back into the editor. We're going to click on the item. We're going to come over to the inspector panel, and we're going to set the overflow content to hidden or hide. So now if we preview again, now it's going to look like that, and it looks so much cleaner. However, there's still something I want to do. So what I want to do is just go ahead and add a container box, just like this. We're going to stretch it to the full width of the screen or of that item. We're going to change the color to something like a light purple. And just for fun, let's go ahead and give it the same radius for the corners. And we're going to go ahead and make sure that this is behind the stack. Now, I also want to add a little button. Let's go ahead and move it so it's in line with the text, and we're going to move it up to right about here. For this button, I'm going to align the text to the left, and we're going to change the text to know more, or you can say learn more. And for the design, we're going to go ahead and remove the background. For the text, we're going to leave it as white. And for hover, we'll go ahead and make the text purple, and we'll go ahead and remove the background fill. Okay, so I know this doesn't look very good right now, but if we go ahead and select the repeater and select the item, go back into our hover interactions, what we want to do is go ahead and go switch over from hover to initial. We're going to select the container, and we're going to set the opacity for this to 0, just like that. So that's going to remove the button and that container. Now, if we go into preview, here's what we should see. That looks really, really nice. I feel like this text right here is going up a little bit too much. So we can go back into the repeater item, go into the custom interactions, select this stack again, and maybe instead of -100, we do -90. And if we press done, press preview, I think that looks really, really good. Now let's move on to the next section. So we're going to go ahead and add a new section. This one's just going to be kind of a little bit more information about the agency or whatever. So what we're going to do is go ahead and set this to, once again, we're going to do like a high number. For this one, let's do like 1,000 pixels. We're going to go ahead and grab a container box. Make sure that the width is 85% to match the rest of our site. And we're going to set this to, let's say 800 pixels. And we'll go ahead and remove the background. Next, let's go ahead and add a 2x1 grid. For this one, let's go ahead and make this left column 0.8 FR, just like that. And actually what we want to do is not have this be 85% width. We actually want it to be 100% width. But for this right margin, we want it to align with the edge of this box. So let's go ahead and pull it in 15%. I think that will work just like that. Perfect. And now we can go ahead and begin designing this section. So over here in this left section, we're just going to go ahead and bring out an image just like this, and we're going to change the image. We'll choose something like this. We'll edit the focal point a little bit, and we'll add a little bit of parallax. Next, in this right section, we just want a little bit of text. Now this one's not going to be as complex as the other ones. It's just going to be a title, paragraph, and a button. And then I'm just going to go ahead and copy over all of the text. For this text up here, let's go ahead and set this to 45, just like that. And we'll go ahead and bring it out just a little bit like this. Go ahead and bring down this text. For this text, let's go ahead and make this one kind of the lighter gray, just like that. And for this button, just like before, we're going to go ahead and set the background color to this nice purple. And for hover, we're going to make sure that we do something a little bit lighter. Okay, and I think this text might be a little too hard to read, so we're going to go up just one, just like there. Let's go ahead and grab all three elements and press stack. In the stack, let's go ahead and make sure it's centered on the page, just like that, or on this section. Let's go ahead and add 200 pixels of margin to the top and the bottom. And then what we're going to do is go ahead and grab this section or this container, and we're going to go ahead and set the minimum height to minimum content, just like that. And then what I want to do is go ahead and give the entire container 150 pixels of margin on the top and bottom as well. Now for this image right here, I do want to do something to the corners. So what I want to happen is for this top right and this bottom right to have a rounded edge, but I don't want to add that to the top left or bottom left. So I'm going to come over to the inspector panel, go to design and corners. I'm going to turn off this little link icon. That way, when I apply changes to one, it's not going to apply it to all. So, we can just add 8 pixels of rounded edge to just this corner and this corner. Now, what you can do is get a little crazy and have one corner be like something crazy like that. So you can add a little more custom effect to it, which looks really nice. But for the sake of the video, we're just going to leave it at 8 pixels. So now we should have something that looks like this. The next section that I want to create is going to be a little portfolio teaser. So we're going to go ahead and add a new section. Just as always, we're going to add a little extra room than we would need to give us some more room to work with. Now for this section, what we're going to do is pull out a container. We're going to stretch it to the full width of the screen. We're going to apply a 1x2 grid. And then what we're going to do is add another container into this top one right here. We're going to set this one to 85%. And we're going to make sure it's centered and sent to the top, just like that. Now for this one, we're going to apply a 2x1 grid. And over here, we're going to want a title. And over here, we're going to want a nice little button to view even more portfolio pieces. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. We're just going to drag out this title. Make sure it's sent to the top left. We're going to make the width 100% for now. And we're just going to type in a title. And we're also going to set the font size to 45. Okay. Next, in this right column, we're going to drag out a button and we're going to say view all. Now for this button, we're just going to align it to the right. We're going to remove the background color. We're going to make the text a nice little purple. And then on hover, let's go ahead and make the text like a pink. And we're also going to remove the background color here as well. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and align this to the top right. Now for this section, I'm going to go ahead and grab this text right here. And I'm going to add 60 pixels of margin to the bottom. Then I'm going to grab the container. And we're going to set the minimum height to minimum content, just like that. Then I'm going to grab the container inside this section. And we're going to do the same thing to the top row. The next thing I want to do is have some sort of repeater right here. So we're just going to pull out this repeater. And we're going to stretch it to the full width of the section, just like that. We're going to set the repeater settings from cards to a slider. Let's set the horizontal margins to 50 pixels to give us some more room to work with. Then we're going to select the item and we're going to remove the background color. And we're going to set the radius to 8 pixels, just like that. And basically all I want to do is just pull out an image. We're going to stretch it. We're going to make sure that these images have 8 pixels of radius, just like the item. And then let's go ahead and change the images. And now with the repeater selected, we're going to go to the breadcrumbs, select the container, and we're going to change the grid layout. Now for this, let's go ahead and set this to maybe 350 pixels. Something like that. And we're going to go ahead and set the minimum width for the item to 20%. And because we did that, we can go ahead and add a 4th or 6th item and go ahead and change the images here as well. So now what I want to do is just go to each one of my containers, make sure that we remove the background color. We're going to go ahead and make sure we select the background container and make sure that the minimum height is set here. And then we're going to go ahead and select the actual section itself. And we're going to remove the minimum height, just like that. Now, what I want to do is go ahead and make sure we click on the container. And let's go ahead and add 150 pixels to the top and the bottom. That way it gives us some more space to work with, just like that. Now, I will say we kind of have too much space here. So we probably don't need to have the 150 pixels on the top right here, because we already have 150 pixels here from this container. So we don't need 300 pixels. So it will look like this, which just looks really nice. And the last section that we're going to be building out on this page is some testimonials, but we're also going to make it kind of a call to action below the testimonials. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to add a new section. Now, I am going to make this 2 separate sections, but I'm going to try to make them look like they're just one. So for now, let's focus on the testimonials. So we're going to give us 1,000 pixels of space to work with. We're going to go set this to the dark blue that we used up here for this section over here. And what we want to do is just pull out a title right here. I'm going to paste in some text. Make sure it's set to white, and we're going to change the font size to 45. And we're also going to center it. The next thing I want to do is go ahead and add this little squiggly path right here. We're going to put it right underneath. Then we're going to grab an image. We'll just grab this one for now. We'll make it quite small. Then let's go ahead and add a paragraph. This paragraph, let's go ahead and set it to like 30% width. We'll center it up. Now we're going to paste in our testimonial. We're going to make it white, and we're going to make sure it is aligned to the center, just like this. And then below that, I'm just going to copy and paste this section right here, or this paragraph. And this is going to be the name of the client and the company they work for. And we're going to place it right underneath that testimonial. And then let's go ahead and grab all of these items, press stack. In the stack, let's go ahead and add 150 pixels to the top and the bottom. And then we're going to grab the container and remove the minimum height. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and add another section, which this one's going to be the contact. And we're going to make the background the same color as the last strip. And then what I want to do is go ahead and pull out a container. We're going to go ahead and set the width to 85%. We're going to center it and align it to the top. And let's go ahead and give it a little bit more height so we have some room to work with. Then we're going to add some text in here, which is going to be a title. We're going to align it to the left and top. And I'm going to go ahead and paste in some lorem ipsum for this part. We're going to make the text white. And we're going to go ahead and make this quite large. Let's try 45. Let's see what 45 looks like. I think that looks good, but maybe it doesn't need to be 80% width. Let's try like 60. Perfect. Next, let's go ahead and add a button. For this button, let's go ahead and send it to the left, and let's change the text to get in touch. And for the design, of course, we're going to go with a nice purple. And then on hover, let's go ahead and go with a nice lighter purple. We're going to grab both of these, the text and the button, and press stack. Then we're going to grab the actual container, remove the background color. Then with the container still selected, let's go ahead and remove the minimum height. Let's add 150 pixels to the bottom for a margin. Then we're going to select the section and remove the minimum height. Which, looking at it now, it doesn't seem like, going from a centered thing to a left aligned thing looks quite right. So what we can do is select this stack, and with the stack selected, we can align the items inside the stack to the center, and we can send the stack to the center as well, just like that. And I think that looks pretty good. Now, what I might want to do is grab this container and let's add a little bit more space in between these two sections a little bit. So now we have something that looks like this. And that's basically the main page created. However, there are still things that we can do to make this a little more artsy, a little more creative. What we can do is come over to our media, which I have already uploaded several different design elements, and we can just start playing around. So I can just add this to the page and put something like that over here. Then maybe over here on the right hand side, we can have something like this. Now, if we select this container and we can set the overflow to hide, that's going to help us confine this element to the page, and there's not going to be some weird scroll thing on the live site. So if we take a look at the preview now, we're starting to liven up the site a little bit, and it's starting to look a little bit cooler and more artsy. For this section, I kind of do like how this one doesn't have anything other than this little element, because we're trying to draw the user's attention to these icons and the actual text here, which I think these design elements in themselves is plenty. So let's go and move on to the next section. Now for this section, we can add a few minor little things. Like one, we can drag out this little circle, maybe put it somewhere in the top left. And then maybe we can stick something like this right here. So I think that looks really clean. And maybe for this project section, we can have something that looks like this, which looks really nice, which I think this might look better in this section right here. Something like this. And then in this section, we can go ahead and set the overflow to hide, which if you want to, we can go ahead and lower this circle down quite a bit, move it over, and then let's also send it behind the repeater. I think that looks a lot cleaner. Okay, below that is the testimonials. I do think this could use some of those little extra little art pieces, because it does seem a little bit bland here. So let's go ahead and pull out this group right here. And it is pretty hard to see if you guys can even see it at all. In the official release, I will edit this a little bit so you'll actually be able to see it. But for now, this is the nice creative web design for a creative artsy agency. And that basically wraps it up for the video today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, please consider giving this video a like and consider subscribing to the channel for more Wix and Editor X content coming out really soon. Thank you all again, and I'll see you all in the next one.